In the spring of 2014, Copenhagen Zoo no longer had room for studbok number 44345, Marius. The giraffe's genes were already sufficiently represented in the breeding program. The zoo announced it would kill the young healthy animal, and it did, despite excited protests from media all over the world.
Shot dead.
Marius.
People love giraffes.
Murderer.
There are surplus animals in German zoos as well, and some of them are killed. The number might increase.
I'm firmly convinced that this will be the future. We have to accept that in the natural cycle, life and death simply belong together.
Is the seemingly perfect world of zoos at an end? The lions in Wuppertal are fed 6 times a week, today with goats from the petting zoo. Breeding manager Silja Herberg is on her way to the slaughter.
I also make the decisions about which animals live and which don't. And that's why I think it's important to do it myself sometimes, even if it's not nice.
The African pygmy goats from the petting zoo have been offered to other zoos since they were born. None wanted them. Now they're almost 4 months old and can no longer stay with the herd because they would soon start mating with their mothers. We get to film what zoos usually don't like to show. Animals are not only born here, but sometimes killed, even though they are healthy.
We know that we also have predators, and if we didn't feed them now, we would get anonymous beef halves, where we can pretty much say that they were not kept well, and we are convinced that our way is the right way.
Veterinarian Saskia Dreyer will kill the goats in their familiar environment. The bolt gun is also used on cows or sheep that are eaten by humans.
Einmal richtig Winkel. Alles klar.
All clear? Then I shoot.
The bolt gun uses a spring to drive a metal rod into the animal's brain. Then the throat is cut. The goat bleeds out. Once or twice a year, the Wuppertal Zoo kills goat offspring from the petting zoo.
Of course you're glad when it's over, because obviously that's something we don't like to do.
A moral dilemma. When is it okay to feed animals to others at the zoo? Zoo visitors often accept it more easily when the animal in question belongs to a species they would eat as well. But a zebra? Silja Herberg and zoo director Arne Lavrenz want them to question their gut feeling.
She's not there.
No, she's not there. She's not on the big grounds either. She's probably in the stable. Another sign.
She was kicked out of the herd.
For several weeks now, the zebra stallion has been bullying the mare Charlotte.
We have to see if we can see her from the side now, if we go around. There she is.
The stallion kicks and bites her. She can't stay here. If Silja Herberg doesn't find another zoo, the zebra could also end up as lion food. This isn't a matter of course at the zoo, not even for Arne Lavrenz's colleagues from other zoos.
There are some who say, I'm afraid this will scare visitors away. People should come to the zoo and just be happy and enjoy the ideal world, Disney style. Everybody cuddling with each other. And you're just born and it's all just beautiful and nobody dies. But I think we have to talk about reality and can't say I'm making a person an ideal world, an unrealistic world, just to make them feel happy.
Part of the more realistic zoo Lavrenz envisions is that zoo visitors understand cycles of nature. But do they accept it? Fearing the reaction of visitors, predators in most zoos are given food that is as anonymous as possible, finely dissected, without fur and without a head. For Silja Herberg, the days when full carcass feeds take place are exciting. You never know what the reaction will be. This visitor wonders when the animals were killed. Silja tells her 9 in the morning, that same day.
They're from our junior zoo and had a very wonderful life there until this morning. She also knows where the sausages we eat come from. That's just part of it, isn't it? And lions eat that. That's what nature is like.
Not everyone sees it like that. Charlene Aviduto and Gottschalk Noah preferred to leave the feeding early.
We noticed that you were very shocked or very impressed by what you saw. Is that right?
Yes, Noah was pretty scared, right? Because it's pretty scary when animals like that eat a whole animal. And you can see the blood.
All lions have to eat meat and have to eat animals. Normally we feed our carnivores with pieces of meat like you get from the butcher. But that's not nature's reality. That doesn't hurt you anymore, but this still hurts us. But we believe that we have to show the circle of life.
It's nature, right? That's terrible. But we also like meat, and the lions probably like it too.
It's so important to us to show this that we're even willing to risk that we might scare some people away. But the majority of visitors see it, understand it, accept it, and it's just natural. It would be unnatural to hide it.
Which animals are killed in the zoo and why? These questions will become increasingly urgent in the future. Because the husbandry is better than it used to be, many animals grow old in zoos today, and almost all young animals survive. Zoos are running out of space. This is why in Nuremberg, the day begins with the usual routine at the gorillas, the distribution of the birth control pill.
This is a normal pill for women. We simply press it into a piece of banana, and then the monkey eats it without any problems.
Headkeeper Ramona Such distributes the pill in the morning before the gorillas enter the enclosure, always at the same time.
Hello, Habibu. Come here. Pill.
They get the pill for 21 days, then a 1-week break, same as humans. In the last 3 years, 2 gorilla boys were born in Nuremberg. Since then, contraception has been used because the genes of Father Thomas are now sufficiently represented in the breeding program. Gone are the days when it was a sensation that an ape was born at the zoo.
The bottle is intended for little Tony, the first orangutan baby ever to see the light of day in Hamburg's world-famous Hagenbeck Zoo.
Young animals were almost always wild-caught. Zoo births were so rare and so valuable that only humans were trusted to care for them.
Only silly jokes in the monkey head. Tony baby would not have been well with them.
Quite affectionate, but not appropriate for the species. When the zoo-born animals later had offspring of their own, they often didn't know what to do with them. Nuremberg Zoo director Dag Enke experienced this firsthand. In the 70s, he was a regular playing partner for the apes at the zoo in Krefeld, where his father was the director. Today, Enke himself is vice chairman of the German Zoo Association. Dag Enke is concerned about what will happen in 15 or 20 years with animals like his 2 gorilla boys. In the sense of the breeding program, they are surplus, since only one male ever lives with several females.
It is hard for us to come to terms with these questions emotionally as well. None of us who deal with animals would be able to say, okay, we'll put him to sleep tomorrow. And we have to solve that for ourselves. We need to offer a solution that we can keep up.
Release into the wild is currently not an option. Gorillas are threatened with extinction because their habitat is shrinking.
If you take it very radically and say we no longer breed because we have so many old animals, then the age pyramid goes up, becomes leaf-shaped. And then at some point the stem is at zero. We have no more offspring. Then the species would be lost long before the last animal has died. And that is the illusion in which we then live, that we believe. Well, we have enough animals here. There are still so and so many. But when none of them is able to reproduce, then the species is dead.
Dag Enke sees his zoo as an ark, preserver of species that are dying out in nature. But an ark has few animals on board, and it only works if they reproduce. Arani is one of only 35 Asiatic lionesses registered as capable of reproduction in European zoos.
When she sees us, she also likes to duck away.
When she sees the vet, yes?
Yes, of course.
There she is.
Until August 2021, male lion Subali also lived here, but he was old and sterile. So Dag Enke put up for discussion to euthanize him and bring another male to Nuremberg. But Subali was a crowd favorite, and zoo visitors and media audibly appalled at the suggestion to kill him.
Subali looks on with big, sad lion eyes.
Subali has a problem. It doesn't work out with the offspring. In the worst case, the animal must be killed.
By now, Arani is on her own. Subali has been put down. But because he got sick and was in pain, Enke says.
This is a prime example of the dilemmas you run into when trying to conserve a, let's say, highly endangered species. This means that we have to maintain and nurture a healthy population, and that we have to look carefully at how we use the potential. And if an animal, a fertile and valuable lioness, out of 35 that still exist in our population, is occupied by a sterile lion, then we have to find a new partner. And that's why we were so glad that he died.
That's what you would say?
Yes.
In a zoo such as Enke envisions, the lifespan of the individual animal is not as important as the survival of the species. But to kill a healthy animal, the German Animal Welfare Act requires what it calls a reasonable cause. Killing an animal to eat it is considered a reasonable cause, just like killing a zoo animal to feed it to others. That an animal doesn't fit with breeding program isn't a reasonable cause yet. But the German Zoo Association would like to see it legally recognized as such.
In many situations today, we no longer have to choose the good solution for us, for our moral state or our state of mind, but we need solutions that point to the future, and these can sometimes be such that they hurt us very much.
And the zoo visitors also have to endure that?
Everyone has to endure that, or we'll do without many species.
There is one zoo nation where they already live a system as Dag Enke envisions, Denmark. Here at Copenhagen Zoo, Marius the giraffe was killed in 2014 because his genes were already sufficiently represented in the breeding program. Mats Bertelsen was a veterinarian in Copenhagen at the time. He was there when Marius was born. He shot him when Marius was 2 years old, and no herd could be found for him. And he dissected him in the zoo, in front of an audience. 8 years later, he's still regularly approached about Marius.
So this is our commissary where we prepare the food for the animals, and actually Marius was dissected right here and then later on fed to our lions. Looks a little bit different today in the sunlight.
Teaching anatomy on a dead animal is not uncommon in Denmark.
Well, the people who came to watch here, first of all, paid the entrance fee, and then secondly decided to go behind the scenes to watch this. So nobody were inadvertently subjected to this. They chose to be here, and there were a lot of children here, and in fact the children were the ones asking the best questions.
In the meantime, Mats Bertelsen has become the director of the zoo, and there are 2 young giraffes again, Marius's half-sister and a little bull. It's still unclear whether he will ever be needed for the breeding program, just like back then with Marius.
There's constant dynamic, so you never know right from the beginning. But after a while, it became clear, and at the time that he was eventually shot, it was because he was now fighting with his father, just like we're seeing the rhinos behind me here, and it's time to move then.
In many species, only one adult male can be part of the group. The small rhino bull will soon be transferred to another zoo where he will have his own herd. For Marius, this possibility did not exist, so he was killed and eaten by the Copenhagen lions, who in turn were also killed a few months later. Sounds like a lack of breeding planning, but it is strategy. In Copenhagen, lions always live as a pride with cubs. German zoos often use contraception out of fear of surplus animals, but this can cause illness, trigger tumors on the uterus, or lead to lionesses not becoming fertile again at all. Here they have cubs every 2 to 3 years, as in nature, but this is only possible because some of them are killed.
I think that basically quality of life is more important than quantity of life. And an animal doesn't plan ahead. A lion doesn't know how long its life is going to be, but it does know how the life feels. And I think a lion pride is much more functional and much more natural if they have youngsters.
These cubs will soon go to another zoo. But about half of the lions born here are put down. When they are about 2, that is, at the age when they would be driven out of the pride in nature. Copenhagen Zoo communicates this openly to their visitors.
I don't think Danes are any harder or tougher than Germans, and I think there are more hunters in Germany percentage-wise. So no, I think this is a PR question. This is just something, and of course the legislation it comes into it. But this is something that we need to consider very carefully. What do we need to do, and then do what is right.
What is right? When zoos kill worms, insects and mice? Animals that humans also eat? Animals that resemble them? Animals shot in the forest when man doesn't want to give them space? Where is our limit? Here at Wuppertal Zoo, they would welcome this discussion. Silja Herberg, the zoo manager, checks on Charlotte. The zebra mare the stallion is bullying and driving out of the herd. High time she's picked up. Silja Herberg has found a zoo that's interested. But now it's too hot to take her away.
We should find an interim solution. Drive overnight with a trailer.
We will be happy if she finds another herd where she can get along.
Yes, exactly. That's the goal of all of us.
In such situations, and to avoid inbreeding, zoos trade animals among themselves. Females are almost always wanted. The problem is mostly males.
I'm going in.
Elephant cow Tika is pregnant.
Yes, that's good.
Veterinarian Saskia Dreyer is doing an ultrasound today. Only after the birth can the sex of the baby elephant be determined. If it's a female, it's a gain for the stud book. There are still not as many births per year as the zoos would like to have in order to preserve the species permanently. But places for bulls are already getting scarce.
I can see the head with the trunk.
Stadtbook keeper, Zoo Director Arne Lavrens has an overview of all 190 African elephants in European zoos. In the old zoo elephants, the sex ratio is still similar to that in nature. Many elephant cows and few bulls. Because they are wild caught, when this was still allowed, the zoos specifically grabbed females. However, in the case of zoo-born elephants, the ratio of females to males is now 1:1, a problem. This is because elephants live in matrilinees. The females stay together for life, but the males migrate. In nature, many die young. Elephant cow Tika had her last baby, a girl, 2 years ago. At birth, the whole herd supported her. Elephants are highly social animals. They need family, other young animals to play with. A total breeding halt to prevent surplus males could destroy social structures. So zoos are looking for compromises.
One attempt is to extend the birth intervals, but in the end we're just prolonging the process, where at some point we have to say, we have to do something. An elephant lives to be 40, 50, 60 years old.
For several years, zoos have been establishing groups of young bulls to pick up surplus males. The areas in Africa where elephants live safely have no room for more males. So the time when zoos are full can only be delayed. And then? Nuremberg Zoo Director Dag Enke is looking for a solution for his 2 gorilla boys, who are surplus in the sense of the Stadtbook. He has come here to Gaia Zoo in Kerkrade, the Netherlands, to see gorillas that don't exist in nature. Besides the silverback and the females, 2 castrated males live here.
That is very bizarre, to see that they have the size of a male but remain quite slim, which is also not female because the females actually become relatively fat when they become adults. It's a very unique phenotype that develops here.
The males were castrated in order to be able to remain with the group, to make sure their father won't attack them. Dag Enke has an appointment with Patrick van Veen. The biologist is an advisor to the board of the Jane Goodall Foundation, which was set up by the animal rights activist to protect great apes, and with the head of breeding at the Gaia Zoo, Emil Prinz. He and his team have been conducting an experiment here in recent weeks that interests Dag Enke. They've integrated a new silverback into their group with adult castrated males.
That was our biggest worry, him. He was our biggest worry with the introduction of the new silverback. Because we were afraid, because they're the same age, and maybe he is competition. It was nothing else than a female really for the silverback, I would say.
The new silverback doesn't see the castrated males as competitors. They were castrated before puberty and therefore have developed quite differently.
Looks like Kermit the Frog.
Yeah. To give surplus males a social life, more zoos are likely to castrate gorillas in the next few years. Patrick van Veen would prefer it if there were no apes in zoos. But anyone who wants to ban this today sees the future of wild apes too rosy, he believes.
The problem is that in 40, 50 years there will be no more gorillas. There will still be gorillas, but they will be populations that are no longer viable. Unfortunately, it looks like this reserve population in the zoos with their healthy structure, which they hopefully still have then, might become essential to be able to reintroduce at all. I think that zoos also have the responsibility to have a plan. What do we do with the animals in the future? Artificial mortality, that's really a no-go. I would never actually support that. I'm just afraid that at some point we'll come to the point where we'll have to say, where do we apply our ethical standards? To the species or to the individual? And how do we bring that together?
Unlike this silverback, The gorilla boys in Nuremberg will never have their own harem, but if they're castrated, they could grow old in their natal group.
It is, of course, a compromise that we're making, and we're going to have to make many compromises to natural occurrences in all of our conservation concepts. That's going to hit us everywhere.
For years, zoos have tried to become more nature-oriented. Now they have so many offspring that they have to castrate or prevent births, or even adapt the mortality rate to nature, a breach of taboo. In Wuppertal, it's now clear. Zebra Charlotte will not be eaten. Today, the mare will be picked up. She should run into the trailer as soon as the intermediate door opens. The team considers what to do if things go wrong.
Then we have to make sure that we get out of the situation and leave her alone. Then you'd have to go into the wagon.
This will not happen.
But beware, she can come back with quite a bit of strength.
Off they go.
Can you see anything?
Yes.
Silja Herberg has to close the door as soon as the zebra is in the trailer. It's a 6-hour-long journey to her new herd in the Animal Park Straubing for Mare Charlotte.
In this case, it's a nicer solution for me than to feed the animal now, because I know that she still has a large part of her life ahead of her. She can reproduce. She will reproduce and raise young animals herself. She hasn't been able to do that with us yet, because she's still young, and the stallion kicked her out of the herd this year. Before that, she was not sexually mature. That is, life begins for her now, and that's, of course, a beautiful thing.
A fulfilled zoo life, with others of their kind and offspring. Because they want to make this possible for their animals, Silja Herberg and Arne Lavrenz would be willing to kill more healthy zoo animals in the future, although the idea is also difficult for them with some species.
Maybe I'm just hoping that I won't be working when we get to that point, when we have to do that. But I think that this is unfortunately the only way to really be able to manage threatened populations, small populations, with a high animal welfare aspect, in other words, reproduction and being able to take part in all that. That's why it's so important that we talk about it and that people decide how they feel about it.
How will visitors react to the new openness of zoos? For many, zoos have been an ideal world. However, the reality is different. Problems demand solutions here too.